There are some kinds of pain that don't arrive loudly. They don't crash into your life like a storm. They don't announce themselves with warning signs you can clearly see. Instead, they arrive quietly, softly, almost gently, and by the time you realize what's happening, they've already changed everything. This is the story of Amara, a woman who believed in love, until love taught her the most painful lesson of her life. It began on an ordinary morning, the kind of morning most people would forget. But for Amara, it became the beginning of everything, and eventually the end. She met Daniel on a Tuesday, not at a party, not through friends, not in some dramatic, cinematic way. She met him by accident, a simple accident that felt meaningless at the time, but would later mean everything. Cafe was crowded that day. The usual Lagos rush, people talking loudly, chairs scraping the floor, the smell of coffee hanging thick in the air. Amara was distracted. Her mind was somewhere else, replaying conversations she wished she could forget, mistakes she told herself she had moved on from. And that was when it happened. She turned too quickly and spilled her coffee right onto Daniel's shirt. For a second, everything froze. Amara's heart dropped. "I'm so sorry," she said immediately. Then again. And again. But Daniel didn't react the way most people would. He didn't get angry. He didn't sigh in frustration. He laughed. A calm, easy laugh. The kind that instantly changes the mood of a room. "It's just coffee," he said. "Not the end of the world." That moment, small as it was, stayed with her, because kindness like that is rare. And sometimes it's all it takes to open a door. He asked for her name. She hesitated just for a second. Then she told him, "Amara." He repeated it like it mattered, like it was something worth remembering. And from that moment, something began. At first, it was simple, just conversations, light, easy, effortless, the kind that don't feel forced, the kind where silence doesn't feel awkward and laughter comes naturally. Daniel had a way of making people feel seen. He listened, really listened. And when he spoke, it felt intentional, like every word mattered. Amara wasn't used to that. She had been in relationships before. Ones that started strong but faded. Ones where promises were made easily and broken even easier. So she told herself to be careful, to take things slowly, to not fall too fast. But Daniel made that difficult because he didn't act like someone who was unsure. He didn't play games. He didn't disappear and reappear like nothing happened. He was present, consistent, intentional, and slowly Amara began to believe. Maybe this time it would be different. Weeks passed, then months. And without realizing it, Daniel became part of her life in a way that felt natural, expected. He called her every morning, checked on her during the day, stayed on the phone with her late into the night, talking about everything and nothing at the same time. He learned her habits, her favorite food, the way she pretended to be strong when she was hurting, the way she avoided talking about her past, and instead of pushing, he stayed patient. "I'm not in a hurry," he once told her. "I just want something real." Those words mattered because Amara had spent so much time around people who rushed feelings but avoided commitment. Daniel was the opposite, or at least that's what it seemed. The first time he held her hand, it felt different, not dramatic, not overwhelming, just steady, safe. And that was what made her fall, not grand gestures, not empty promises, but consistency, presence. The feeling that she finally found someone who meant what he said. One night, under a quiet streetlight, Daniel looked at her and said something she didn't realize would later become a lie. "I'm not going anywhere." Simple words, but for someone like Amara they carried weight, because she had heard the opposite too many times, and so she believed him completely. But the truth is, betrayal rarely begins with something obvious. It starts small, almost invisible, a delayed reply, a missed call, a sudden change in routine, things that can easily be explained away. And that's exactly how it began. Daniel started getting busy. Not all the time, just enough to be noticeable, but not enough to feel suspicious. At first, Amara ignored it, because when he was present, he was still the same, still caring, still attentive, still loving. And that's how confusion begins. When someone shows you two different versions of themselves, and you choose to believe the one that makes you feel safe. One evening she called him, no answer, she waited, called again, still nothing. By the third attempt she felt it, that quiet discomfort, the kind that doesn't scream but whispers something isn't right. When he finally called back, his voice was slightly off. Not enough for anyone else to notice, but enough for her. "I was with a client," he said, quickly, too quickly. She wanted to ask more questions, but she didn't, because sometimes people are afraid of the answers, and so she let it go. Days passed. Then something happened that erased all her doubts, at least temporarily. Daniel showed up at her door unannounced, with flowers, her favorite, and food. From the exact place she once mentioned casually, a place she didn't even expect him to remember. "I miss you," he said, and just like that, everything felt okay again. They laughed that night, talked about the future, danced in the living room like nothing else mattered. And then he said it, the words that would later echo in her mind over and over again. "You're the only one I want." And she believed him, because in that moment he felt honest, real, certain, but somewhere else in the same city. Another woman was staring at her phone, waiting. Her name was Vanessa, and she was also waiting for Daniel. Silence pause. Because the truth was something Amara didn't know yet. Daniel wasn't choosing between two women. He was living two lives. Vanessa wasn't new. She wasn't a mistake. She wasn't something that just happened. She had been there before Amara, long before, and unlike Amara, Vanessa knew exactly who Daniel was. She had seen his patterns, his inconsistencies, his charm, his ability to make promises sound real even when they weren't. But knowing the truth didn't make it easier, because love has a way of holding on even when it should let go. Days later, everything changed, not dramatically, not loudly, but permanently. Amara borrowed Daniel's phone, a simple, normal moment, nothing unusual. He was in the shower, his phone lit up. A message. She didn't mean to check it, at least that's what she told herself, but something about the name caught her attention. V. Just one letter, but enough to spark curiosity. She hesitated. Her heart began to beat faster, then she opened the message. Silence pause. "I miss you too. When are you coming back?" Everything stopped. Her fingers went cold, her chest tightened, her mind went blank, because in that moment, everything she believed began to fall apart. She didn't confront him immediately. She couldn't, because sometimes the truth is so heavy, you need time just to understand it. So she waited, watched, listened. And slowly the pieces began to come together, the late nights, the missed calls, the sudden distance. They weren't random, they weren't innocent, they were deliberate. And the man she trusted was lying, not once, not twice, but consistently. The confrontation came days later, quiet, controlled, but filled with emotion beneath the surface. "Who is Vanessa?" she asked. Daniel froze just for a second, but that second was enough, because hesitation is often louder than words. "It's not what you think," he said, and that was the beginning of the end, because when someone says that, it usually is exactly what you think. What followed was not shouting, not chaos, not drama. It was worse. It was truth, raw, uncomfortable, impossible to ignore. And in that moment, Amara realized something that changed her forever. Love doesn't break you all at once. It breaks you in pieces, piece by piece, lie by lie, until there's nothing left of what you believed. But here's the thing about broken people. They don't stay broken forever, because sometimes betrayal doesn't destroy you, it reveals you. And what Amara would become next was something Daniel never expected, because losing her would be the biggest mistake of his life, and this time, she wouldn't be the one who stayed.